Namaste and welcome everyone for our webinar on Ahimsa and the art of nonviolent communication. If you haven't yet, please put in the chat where you are zooming in from. We have Barbara from St. Cloud, Florida, Sudarshanji from Fresno, California. We have a special guest host, Ms. Kumu Gupta ji from Boston. So I'll give a quick introduction to the context and subject of the webinar, introduce her, and we will get started. So in this webinar, we're going to introduce the Gandhian approach to nonviolent communication and its significance as a 21st century skill to be nurtured for a culture of peace. In the backdrop of instances of aggressive or toxic communication, if you're on social media, you've seen it in the news, integrating strategies of nonviolent Ahimsa communication not only can help us to find inner peace, but also promote a healthy communication ecosystem, whether in our families, institutions, or society at large. It helps in building better connections by enrichment of personhood. The overarching goal is to develop an expansive understanding of nonviolent communication and its application in our daily lives. So we're also gonna be launching a course on Ahimsa and the art of nonviolent communication, which is designed to promote Gandhian nonviolent communication at individual levels, at institutional levels, and at societal levels. And we'll get into detailed exposition in that course, but in this webinar, we're going to kind of introduce this issue in the age of the metaverse, right? And so with that, let me introduce our special guest host. It's Ms. Kumu Gupta, who's the founder and Secretary General of the Global Peace Secretariat and was actually a 2023 Nobel Peace Prize nominee. Ms. Gupta has served as member of President's Challenge Program of the President's Council on Fitness, Sports, and Nutrition under President Obama, and is the recipient of the Council's Community Leadership Award. Earlier, Ms. Gupta was member of the City of Boston, I think, Mayor's annual Interfaith Breakfast Steering Committee, representing the Hindu faith for 5 years, bringing together 60 houses of worship and song and prayer from different religions. Kumaji was also able to get the Massachusetts governor to do a month-long Diwali proclamation in the first time in the state's history, and as recipient of the city council citation for spreading interfaith dialogue across the city and longtime efforts for USPS Diwali stamp issuance. And of course, Kumuji has been a regular attendee of our webinars and a supporter of Hindu University of America. So we are glad to have her co-host with us today. Kumuji, let me hand it to you.
Yes, Ankur, thank you so much. What a wonderful opportunity to have this course being offered by the Hindu University after I first spoke about it to Kalyanji a few months ago. So I would like to go ahead and introduce our guest speaker today and also the instructor and developer of this course, Dr. Venu Vyas Kundu, and this is get home to read his bio rather than say it from memory. And Dr. Kundu has conducted extensive workshops on different dimensions of nonviolent communication, primarily working to promote the Gandhian approach to nonviolent communication, also doing research to develop an Indian model of nonviolent communication based on our rich scriptures. He has long years of experience writing and delivering lectures on various aspects of Gandhian philosophy, nonviolent conflict resolution, media, and information literacy. He has written both nationally and internationally in all these areas, and I've had the pleasure of working with him through my secretariat, and it's an absolute pleasure. Welcome, Dr. Kundu.
Thank you very much. It's such a great honor to be MSU and this whole course. It's such a great honor that the Hindu University of America is launching this very important course on Ahimsa, the art of non-violent communication. It's really, I think we are going to really enjoy it, and most importantly, probably try to assimilate it in our daily lives so that we can make this world a better place to live. Yes, ma'am.
And I think you have a co-instructor,
Yes, yes,
Ms.
yes.
Mansi.
Yes, yes, yes. Actually, also through this, I would love to introduce you to Miss Mansi Sharma. She's from Chandigarh. She's a lawyer by profession. She's a mediator. And in fact, she has been doing, along with Mansi, we do a lot of online mediation, mostly internationally. That's a part of our, volunteer work. Also, she is teaching in the Ghanaian, in Ghanaian studies, and she research focuses on use of non-violent communication in mediation. So this is a very interesting area where she is delving on. And along with Mansi, what we are trying to do is, in fact, we will be having one of the classes also, the Gandhian approach to mediation. So we are trying to develop, looking at the different contemporary approaches to mediation. What we have tried to do is to develop a whole new Gandhian approach to mediation. So we will be sharing with all of you that too, and also its practicality, practical applications. We are going to discuss about it also.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, that's amazing because in today's world of so much of, mass shootings and so many things, that's on a bigger scale. But even in our everyday lives, to be able to communicate with, your friends and your colleagues in a calm and respectful way, in a kind way, I think Gandhiji's message of nonviolence goes a very long way in that. And we are so privileged and blessed and honored that Gandhiji's two granddaughters are there are other descendants as well who are around, but I've had the honor of speaking personally to his one granddaughter in India, Mrs. Tara Gandhi Bhattacharya, and his other granddaughter in South Africa, Mrs. Ida Gandhi. So I think we are very blessed, and we can still use those principles. It's not like this happened in 1947, or for the freedom of India, but this is very much relevant even today in our everyday lives. So that's good. Yeah, that's great. And Hindu University of America is a great place to introduce this course because, like Uncle said, I've been attending their webinars for over a year now, and they're absolutely a very good place. They have good courses, they have good instructors, knowledgeable from all over the world. A lot of them are senior, uh, what should I say, experienced people from India, from US, from everywhere. So I think it's going to be an exciting course, and I'm glad that it's being launched very soon. So, Uncle, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
So should I tell a little bit to the esteemed audience a little bit about the course, or there will be some proper questions where we need to answer, or I go ahead and share a little bit of framework about what we are going to discuss during these classes?
I
What?
think, yeah, I think you can. Usually that is the format is that the course and the materials are introduced, and then we use time for the Q&A through the Q&A box, and as we were talking earlier, you just mentioned that your other co-host, Ms. Mercy, has some internet technical issues because of the heavy rains in Chandigarh. So we just wait while we wait for her to join. Why don't you tell us a bit about the course and what you're going to be talking about?
Sure. If Mahatma Gandhi, in fact, I would like to share with the audience a few years back, actually, one of the UN offices here in India, they invited me to have a session on non-violent communication for her staff. And she was from one of the, I think, one of the European countries. And while the discussion was going on, she said that how relevant is non-violent communication in a country like India. It was, something which was conceptualized by Dr. Marshall Rosenberg. So then I answered her, you see, non-violent communication or ahimsa in our Sangvad or communication is part and partial of Indian tradition, right from the Ved and the Upanishads, the Bhagavad Gita, then the Buddhist tradition, the Jain tradition, everyone talks about the importance of ahimsa in our communication. And one of the greatest proponent of non-violent communication in the modern times definitely is Mahatma Gandhi. So also for your information, you see many of this Gandhian model or the Gandhian approach to non-violent communication. There is this gentleman in northern Nigeria who has been using this model to train vigilantes over there, and that has been a fascinating, success story over there. And then also, some time back, we had a group of young people from Yemen who are taking part in the Gandhian approach to non-violent communication. So it is something very fascinating. In this course, what we are going to do is going to introduce you to some of the practical ideas of Gandhi's non-violence, the 5 pillars of Mahatma Gandhi's non-violence, which are actually the pillars of his non-violent communication. In the second class, we are going to focus on and construct the Gandhian approach to non-violent communication. You see, Gandhi was a really practical person. He never gave any theory or anything. But based on his ideas, based on his principles and practice and action, we have tried to develop this whole approach in the Gandhian approach to non-violent communication. So we are going to construct it for you and try to see what are the important key points and dimensions of his approach to non-violent communication. Then in the third session, we are going to talk more on the Gandhian approach to conflict resolution and how the non-violent communication is an extremely critical element or point for the non-violent resolution or constructive resolution of any conflicts. Then we will be following it up with trying to look at the Gandhian approach to mediation, where again non-violent communication becomes very, very important. Further, we are going to talk on the essence of nonviolent communication as part of our intrapersonal communication. Well, each one of us are involved in our self-talk and inner dialogues, the imagined interactions with us, ourselves, the talking to the self, and how important it is when there is a situation here as we are all jostling for our goals, materialistic goals per se. Most of the many times our self-talk and inner dialogues become very, very dysfunctional. So how we can change that and transform it into a non-violent intrapersonal communication. So that is going to be very, very fascinating. The non-violent communication and the importance of mutual coexistence. You see, when we are talking of the Gandhian approach to non-violent communication, as we are going to see during the sessions, it hinges on the the cosmocentric approach to human nature, and that is actually part of the Indian tradition, the whole idea of human interdependence. So, how non-violent communication, according to the Gandhian approach, is essentially a holistic communication ecosystem, not just communication between human to human, but our symbolic communication with the nature and also the symbolic communication with other living beings. So, we will be talking on non-violent communication and the essence of human interconnectedness and mutual coexistence. Further, we are going to talk on a very, very important dimension, especially in today's context, non-violent communication and media literacy, as we live in a world of, fake news and a whole lot of things on how the media promotes various media forms, promotes hate speech and hate narratives, and with that, we are also reminded of the 1994 Rwanda genocide. So, and the bitter role of the Radio Mille island of Rwanda. So, in that context, how non-violent communication, and in today's world, we have the social media and other forms of media. So, how important it is non-violent communication in any kind of media literacy program. In fact, just for your information, my own PhD has been on the media literacy and its use for peace orientation amongst young people. So that is something very important in today's world. Then we will have a session on non-violent communication in the age of artificial intelligence and algorithm. Extremely important as we are moving towards an expansion of AI and AI systems, and how it's just a massive expansion which is which is happening in today's world, the use of AI in every field. So how important it is to integrate nonviolent communication in AI systems? That's, I think we should all look at it, because as we remember, when nuclear technology was invented, we all told and we all know how important and useful it can be for the humankind. But then we had Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So in that context, how use of ethical use of AI and the role of non-violent communication in programming of AI systems, we are going to look at it. And then, of course, finally, how important it is to use non-violent communication in our daily lives, how we can assimilate it in our daily lives. That's going to be our final session, where we would be inviting all of you to share your own perspectives and ideas on that, on how you plan to assimilate it. So this is in nutshell something we are going to do as part of this whole exercise, and I'm sure we are going to learn from each other. Besides Ms. Mansi Sharma, we will also have someone, Ms. Shohini Jana. She is someone who is a practitioner of doing a lot of work on the self promotion of self awareness and the inner work, inner transformation. She works here with the Parmarth Niketan Ashram here in Rishikesh, and so she has a very great knowledge in these areas. So she will be sharing a lot of her own experiences and ideas in these areas. So this is in nutshell we are going to plan to do, and I'm sure each one of us are going to learn in this process and try to see how we can make these as part of our daily lives. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so yeah, that sounds, that's pretty comprehensive, that you're dealing with not just Gandhiji's principles, but also with AI and with media. I think those are very relevant. What should I say? Up to date, up to what's happening to today. So I see that Mansi has joined. I don't know if she can turn her video and her mic on and say
Yeah,
hello.
even if she's able to turn on her audio, that would be fine, I suppose, in case there is a problem of network. Mansi, can you hear us? Hello, Mansi.
Her mic is off. Maybe she's not hearing.
Hello, hello,
Yes, Mansi. So thank you
hello.
very much for
Greetings,
joining.
everyone. Uh, I'm so sorry because of the rainfall. There is a network issue over here, and that is why I've not been able to connect on time as well. So there was a heavy rainfall few days back here, and still it is continuing. So because of that, we are facing a good number of issues here in India, particularly in my area, which is Panchkula in Haryana.
Oh,
So I
Haryana.
apologize for the inconvenience.
No,
Hello, ma'am.
yeah, hi. No, that's okay. We are having a tornado watch where I live right now, so I wasn't sure that my network was going to hold up either. So, but I'm glad you could join us. And so, Dr. Kundu, what would you like her to talk about?
Yeah, probably for Ms. Mansi Sharma, she could talk about her own, framework that she is going to present. Mansi, I have just been able to share in a nutshell some of the broader ideas that we are going to share with everyone during this course of our journey for this course on Ahimsa, the art of nonviolent communication. If you could just also chip in with your own perspective of non-violent communication and how you plan to take it forward with especially in the area of conflict resolution and mediation, your own deep research in this area and your own practical work, especially as part of the legal, being the legal chairperson of the international organization, the Global Peace. Let's talk. So we would love to hear from Ms. Sharma now.
And if you can turn on your camera if it's possible.
Well, I might lose the connectivity because of that, ma'am. So I would prefer staying on audio as of now.
Okay.
If
Yeah.
possible, I'll just switch it on once the audio is this work is done, and then I'll switch it on towards the end if possible. So I want to make sure that I'm available throughout. So that is why I haven't switched off,
And
switched on the audio.
that's fine.
So
Yeah,
for
that's
the part that I shall be dealing with during the course is mainly about conflicts. And conflicts are something which we are facing every single day. And non-violent communication is a very effective strategy to deal with conflicts, and not just conflicts which arise with others, like in our day-to-day lives, but also conflicts which arise within an individual. Because a good number of times we have witnessed, we have seen, and we have also felt that whenever we do something which is not up to the social standards, or maybe the standards which we have set up for ourselves, we often face some kind of inner conflict wherein we are guilty of something, like we keep on discouraging ourselves, demotivating ourselves. So, nonviolent communication and conflict to me is a way of life. And through these sessions which I will be dealing, my concern will be to ensure that the participants who will be there in the session know how to deal with the conflicts with others, as well as conflicts which arise in their own minds, because that is a very, very serious issue which we are facing these days. A good number of youth are mentally depressed, they do not feel energized, and they feel that their life is going nowhere. So I feel that non-violent communication shall be very, very useful to people who are facing some kind of turmoil within. So conflict resolution is not just about resolving conflicts with people, or the conflicts which arise during our transactions with the world, but it is more about healing oneself. Because ultimately the aim of human life is liberation, and liberation or moksha doesn't come to somebody who is not free from within, free from vices, free from conflicts within. So that is why my focus will be on the practical aspects of conflict resolution. So herein, I also encourage queries or any kind of personal experience which the participants might like to share. Also, if they need some help in dealing with some kind of uh, conflict going inside their minds, or maybe in their lives with people. So I am there to offer help to the model which we will be discussing, which is the Gandhian model of mediation, conflicts with other people, and then non-violent communication as a conflict resolving strategy for all those conflicts which arise within an individual. Then coming to the metaverse and artificial intelligence, these are the catchwords these days, and I believe everybody wants to be tech savvy, and we kind of need to understand that any form of progress, any form of development which takes place in the world has repercussions. When we were moving towards making world a better place to live in, say for that matter through industrial revolution, or if I take a very simple example, say coming up with plastics. So plastics, when they were kind of made, they were taken to be very revolutionary, because they were available very easily, they were cheap, but nobody had that far-sightedness to understand the crisis that might come up years later, because of the chemicals being used, because of the ingredients which go into formation of the cheaper plastics, which is available to all and sundry. So that is why whenever we come up with any form of development, whether it be technological or in any other form, we need to understand, we need to be far sighted enough to understand what is going to happen in future. So that is why we're raising the alarm right in the beginning, before it becomes a daily affair for us to be dealing with artificial intelligence every single day. So that is why we want to ensure that the ethics are also fed into these systems, so that we do not face any crisis later on as we are facing these days. Because when we started industrial revolution, we were only looking at our own comfort, and these comforts have led to the crisis now. So now our concern is to ensure that right in the beginning, the systems are so made that they are sustainable. They can be, even if after 10 years you're looking at the system, it has done no harm to the coming generations, even to us. So that is why my concern will be more youth oriented, the problems which anybody is facing every day, how conflicts can be resolved, and whether conflicts should arise or not. What is the way to peace? How can one ensure peace of mind? How can one ensure peace in the world? And apart from that, also, I look at nonviolent communication as a means of personality development, which is very essential these days. Because, in the corporate sector in particular, communication skills are being taught as, an essential qualification to be in this kind of professional field. So, non-violent communication certainly will help the participants in developing their own personalities, in turning into calmer beings, so that they can handle whatever is happening around them with more peace and with more patience, so that they are able to gain knowledge through sustainable means. And also I'm sure that towards the end of the course they will be better human beings, or maybe if they are still better, they will turn into best human beings we can have in this world. So that is why the purpose for us promoting this art of nonviolent communication is not just about promoting any other form of knowledge which is already in this world. It is about turning human beings into better individuals. So that is why Dr. Veda Vyas and I have been promoting the concept of nonviolent communication with all our might. So that is what I have to offer. Hopefully it will be a good time for all of us.
Yeah, I mean, just listening, just listening to you, Mansi, I'm getting very excited about what to expect from this course, and the transformation that it's going to lead to for everyone. Were you saying?
In fact,
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
ma'am, as Mansi was talking about, like this whole element, because as I also pointed out, this is a very, very important aspect and element when we are talking of AI and the metaverse. Some months back, I was working with this researcher from Germany, and he was doing research on AI and language. The language. How you write the algorithms. So there we were talking about how we need to expose those developers and the algorithm engineers to the idea and the dimensions of nonviolent communication, because there were this group of students who did this very wonderful research on online games. These students were from one of the journalism universities in Bangladesh, and they did this wonderful research on how the whole idea of violent online games and the impact on the youth. So with this researcher, we were talking on how important is to expose this algorithm engineers and all. And when gaming has become such a huge industry, why not promote games which promotes values of non-violence, compassion, empathy, and gratitude? So, but only when we expose them, only when we tell them about these ideas, then we can have a more realistic framework. So that's why we thought this is an extremely important segment which needs to be covered, as AI is now entered every part of our lives. So that's the reason we have put it as one of the sessions. Yes,
Yeah,
please.
yeah, because even in the US, there's a lot of discussions going on. There are a lot of hearings going on where in Congress where they want to see what kind of rules they want to put to control or to to make sure that it doesn't take over people, things like that. So this is a very timely interjection of this topic through this course. So, and I think I
And
can see.
if you know, ma'am, there is this person from the United States, Rosanna Ramos. She created a robo last year using one of those softwares, Carol something, and this robo was supposed to be her virtual boyfriend, and this year in June she actually married him. So what are the ethical guidelines which which govern such kind of relationships? When, because she says that he is a perfect husband, and when we are talking of human beings, the uniqueness of human beings lies on their weaknesses, the frailties, the emotions, so on and so forth. So when she's saying that she wants a perfect husband, and this is the person, Carl, some, I don't exactly have. In fact, I shared with you one blog today, and you will find in that a detailed discussions on that. Where is the centrality of nonviolent communication in such communication principles, and whether we can have a compassionate AI system? That is also a question that we are asking. Like, because if AI system is to help the elderly, or help in the healthcare systems, because we can't wish away anything. Now it is an integral part of human civilization. So in that context, how we can make them good? Like, we recently, just a few days back, we had this wonderful conference in Geneva on AI for good, and there were 9 bots who were there to talk and converse on this subject, and there were whole range of issues. So this is something we need to discuss and need to work further on. Yes, ma'am.
All right. So, Ankurji, it's about halfway through the hour. Did you want to switch to Q&A, or how do you want to go?
Sure. Unless you have any other some thoughts that you want to wrap up on before we get into Q&A. All right. So we have Shashi Kusumaji who would like to ask a question. I can unmute you and you can ask your question. If you have a question, please. Shashi, she got off. Oh, no, they're there. Okay, so allow to talk. So if you can unmute yourself, you can ask your question. If you have other questions, you can put it in the Q&A box. Dr. Raj, Bomakanti ji, got your question. Shashi ji, go ahead.
Yeah, namaste, everybody. Thank you. I was curious about this particular course, and the thing that caught my attention is really about Gandhi ji's principles, which is where I want to focus on. I mean, of course, Ahimsa has been, something that the Hindu, philosophical tapestry has always advocated for. And also, doing your action and duty, even if it requires violence, that is also advocated in the Hindu philosophy and dharma. What I want to understand is that why does this have to be Gandhian in nature? Because, I mean, Gandhian Ahimsa basically looks like it emasculated the society altogether and created so much conflict, with the subcontinent. In addition, it was mostly about appeasement. That's what it was. I mean, the statements he made about Judaism and Hitler and during World War II, and so many examples of his imbalance of his approach, which I believe caused a lot of societal harm. And to propagate the same thing and utilize Gandhian principles in a sense, which to me doesn't sound accurate or truthful to the newer generation, seems like a poor choice to teach Ahimsa based on Hindu philosophy. I mean, we all talk about Gandhi being a disciple of Bhagavad Gita. But Bhagavad Gita is also something that talks about doing the duty. So these are not good examples to teach the youth, especially if you want to get to an honest discussion. I think Ahimsa itself as a mode of communication is a great tool, but I do not understand why it has to be associated with Gandhi for everything. If you want to teach Ahimsa and you want to teach emotional balance, yoga and all those techniques are much better than to do some academic scholarly discussion on Gandhian principles, which I don't even know what they are. And so I find that this course is not going to be very popular, at least in my opinion. And I would not take this course personally. So I want to hear your thoughts around this, because it's not a particular question per se, but it's just a commentary on the purpose of this course that is associated with Gandhi.
Should I answer, please?
I think so. I think there's quite a few people in the audience who will have a similar perspective.
Okay. Well, when we are talking of Ahimsa, there will be different streams of thought. And of course, Ahimsa is very much strongly ingrained as part of the Indian civilizational practice, whether the Ved, the Upanishads, and the Bhagavad Gita, the Yoga Sutras, Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, so on and so forth. Here, when we are talking of the Gandhian approach, definitely if you see a global level, Gandhi continues to be an important icon, for promotion of non-violence. As I just pointed out some time back, this very, very interesting experiment which has been done by this young person from Nigeria, in northern Nigeria, on using the Gandhian principles of non-violent communication in training the vigilantes. You see, the vigilantes are someone like the home guards, like here in India, and these vigilantes work with the police over there to nab the criminals. So this man, Andrew, he has been training them almost already in the last, I think, a year or so. He has trained about 300 people. And recently, one of the students cell of Oxford University invited him to speak on the Gandhi, how he has been using these Gandhian principles of non-violence in his training program. So we are mostly talking about the practical ideas of Mahatma Gandhi and how these can bring in a completely new dimension to the thinking. If you see the 5 very basic pillars without going to the historicity, the 5 basic pillars of Gandhi's non-violence, which are very, very universal in nature. In fact, I remember this brilliant lecture our friend Andrew delivered to one of the colleges where I facilitated his lecture, online lecture. He was talking about these 5 basic principles, which those course we are going to talk about. That is respect, understanding, acceptance, appreciation, and compassion. So when we are talking of these universal values, there comes the importance on how we can assimilate. So I feel that when we bring these ideas and practical applications, it brings changes in the lives of so many people. And that's the importance, I suppose. There will be contentions and contestations to many of these ideas, contentions and contestations to say what Gandhi was saying or XYZ was doing or like that. So of course there will be critique if there is one particular school of thought, there will be a counter school of thought. So, but the basic value, I think, is that if we can respect each other's ideas, each other's principles, so that we can make this world a better, world, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, if I can follow up, is that all right?
Yes, please continue, please.
Yeah, I mean, these universal principles of Ahimsa, I don't think anybody is going to argue with you or anybody else. The contention here is why do associate it with Gandhi? I don't understand, and nobody's going to understand that, at least, contemporary people that are learning the history for what it is. So the best thing to do is to be truthful. If the idea of this course is to teach Ahimsa, I think there's plenty of examples in yoga and all those things to do. I don't understand the associate with Gandhi specifically at all. And you kind of went on, discussing for like 2-3 minutes now about, but it didn't answer the question, because Gandhian principle of Ahimsa basically is appeasement. It is appeasement. It is laying down your defense mechanisms and become emasculated and die and jump in the ocean. Basically, that's what his principle is.
Well, sir, if you could kindly read this beautiful book, The Power of Nonviolence by William W. Gregg, because that talks about such a beautifully on how, say, in a country like Norway, which was swept by Hitler's follower of Hitler, and how Gandhi's principles of non-violence. School teacher in this small little village. At that time, there were no communication systems. How he got inspired by Gandhi's Dandi March, and how they used the non-violent techniques to counter them. So when we are talking of the power of non-violence, that is there. So I feel that instead of just being very critical of everything, we need to respect and we need to look at different principles and ideas which can be assimilated and which can make us a better people. Just by thinking that we can be critique, you see, globally, you will find such a huge respect in so many different countries. Like one talks to, there is an amazing respect for the Mahatma. So I think that is
but sir, respect is aside. I mean, we're just having a dialogue. I'm being respectful. This is criticism. It's just a conversation. It's not really
Yes,
criticism. It's a conversation.
Absolutely.
We are having ahimsa principles of conversation here, really.
Absolutely.
But it has to be based on truth, right? So other people respecting a false propaganda is irrelevant, but truth has to always prevail. If you're going to talk about Gandhi, let's talk about all of Gandhi, which is the good, whatever he did, which he did, and the bad, which he did, whatever he did. But associating him with this bigger than life figure that did nothing but ahimsa is false. Even for the principles of freedom that we all talk about are also being questioned today with new information coming out. I mean, it's really, this really needs, yeah.
No, thank you. I think you do speak and represent an important perspective. I think we gave it enough time. There is going to continue to be a back and forth. Yeah, very valid points. The Ahimsa focus versus the reality of Gandhi, and Dr. Kundu's kind of context of how is he perceived, right? That's part of the communication, right? That's part of the propaganda. That's part of setting the narrative, and what histories are we learning from who and why were they taught, and how do we pull the useful information out of that. So obviously this course is not for you, Shashiji. Maybe it needs to be reiterated. We have a couple other questions kind of in the same line. So I'm just going to go through them from Dr. Raj Bomakanti. And as I read them, you kind of get the feeling that it does kind of continue what you were thinking. And this conversation, I think, is important. I think a lot of people are curious about this, but different perspectives, people still dig into it. So Kumuji, let me just read Dr. Bomakanti's kind of line of questions. He wrote quite a few. And they do kind of dovetail with you, Shashiji. And if you have other questions, audience, please put in the chat. And we'll try and get into all of it, because this is an important, I think, conversation. So Dr. Raj Bomakanti from DC area, I think DMV area. Can you please give one example where Gandhi preached nonviolence to Muslims or Christians and asked them to refrain from Hindu genocides? What ethics guided Gandhi, and how are they such one-sided, he says, anti-Hindu ethics are relevant today? Gandhi's nonviolent preachings are exclusively for Hindus, and that has led to dismemberment of historical Bharat. What are the lessons for Hindus on Gandhi's duplicity? Kind of heavy language. Okay, Dr. Bomakanti goes on to say, does the course instructors endorse this statement by Gandhi? Hindus should not harbor anger in their hearts against Muslims. Even, Dr. Mansiji or Mansi Sharmaji answered that, so it goes into a different place. Let me pull it up. In their hearts against Muslims, even if the latter wanted to destroy them. Even the Muslims want to kill us all. We should face death bravely. So that's Mansiji. Why don't you answer instead of just typing it out? You wrote a good answer. If we can just hear your response to that one, and then we'll go through some of the other questions. Mansiji? All right, maybe I'll just read your response because you typed it out, unless you can unmute. Okay, so Mansiji says no, right? She replied with an exclamation point. At least I don't. Nonviolence is not a simple phenomenon. It has layers. You will discover it during discussion on strategies of conflict resolutions. I will request you to please wait until then. So we may get into, Mansiji, please join again if the audio is not working for you. we're going to have a second part of this conversation. We're going to get into conflict resolution. So we'll pick that up in a little bit. Ashwini Surpurji is, okay, one more from Dr. Raj Bhamakanti. When Gandhi himself openly professed violence on Hindus, how can any algorithm be programmed to ignore Gandhi's own statements? So again, a few outspoken folks really critical of Gandhi's legacy, and it's kind of the pendulum, right? He's been elevated to this point of Mahatma, and there is an opposite kind of perspective, and getting stuck on one side or the other is clearly part of the communication that needs to happen and the narrative that needs to be developed. Ashwini ji is asking, can you please explain the nonviolent games that you talked about? So we'll get into the games. So let's pin that one. There's a couple other questions. Can you speak about the 5 pillars? Sudarshan ji from Fresno asked in the chat. So it's kind of back and forth. Let me just go through. Ashwini ji, are they video games, right? So those two, and yeah, let's take those. So maybe the video game part of it, or if you want to respond to Dr. Raj Bhamakanti, I think it's kind of in line with what Shashi ji was saying. If you want to keep on picking up that conversation, we're at about 9:50. So we're digging into we'll go until probably 10:30 Pacific time if people are engaged and still interested. We have still 25 people with us today. All right, so Dr. Kunduji, how would you like to respond? Kumuji, you have your hand up. Are you okay with that?
Yeah, I just want to give a very quick personal opinion on this. You know, Gandhiji is one way. You have Dr. King, you have Desmond Tutu, you have Nelson Mandela. You have so many, what should I say, prophets of nonviolence and peace, and how they dealt with some very big issues, fleeing countries and whatnot. Now, for me personally, so if you just take a snapshot, right, you can say, okay, Gandhiji is one example. And for people like me, my generation, the way I learned about Gandhiji is because my father he took part in the Quit India movement as a young man when he grew up in India. I didn't grow up in India, though I was born there. I grew up in the Middle East. So there are a lot, and this course, one thing I admire about HUA is it's truly global in nature. You have students and speakers from all over the world. So I think that this is one example. This is one example, and like I think Dr. Kundu was saying that the world has elevated Gandhiji, and what matters sometimes is, well, to me, what mattered is the fact that yes, there is a lot of a lot of angst and anger. I don't appreciate this big Hindu-Muslim divide. So many people got killed back and forth, when they relocated, shifted, whatever, after partition. But at the end of the day, if you look at it, he did free India after 400 plus years of being ruled and colonized by the British. So I think we do have to give him that. And that is what the wonder always is for the Western world or for anybody, that how did he manage? Even this morning, as I was preparing for today's session, I was thinking, wow, that's amazing. What is exactly at the root? If I really penetrate deep and try to understand where exactly and how exactly, I know how it all got started for Gandhiji personally after he got chucked off the train, or even before that in South Africa. So he's like a snapshot in time, and he's a success story in this, at least partially, that he freed a nation. And today India is free because of not just him, but he contributed a lot. So this is what I just wanted to say. That's all. Thank you.
Also here, I would like to share a very small little example, which even as an Indian, I was astounded when I heard it. A year and a half back, this young peace scholar from a very small little town of Overhall in Germany, her name is Burku, and she's a Turkish Muslim who is married to a German Christian over there. And in that particular city, there are a lot of people, immigrants, Syrians, Afghans, and the people from Africa. So there are a lot of issues of racism, a lot of issues of conflict with the local Germans. So she was starting at that time something what she called as an intercultural dialogue walk. So in a small road, anyway, that city is not that populated also, she would take out she would take, say, one African and one local German with them, and she would have a dialogue with them, conversation with them on the on the commonalities, on the differences, so on and so forth. So she asked me, "Ki, brother, can you help me make a concept note, because the mayor of that particular city was launching that, and a flyer." So we made that, and I suggested to her, "Ki, why don't you have in the flyer some peace epistles?" And I suggested Mahatma Gandhi, Martin Luther King, to probably look at a gender balance. I suggested, because it was Germany, Mother Teresa. Uh, but the answer which she gave me, like, to even today, I am so greatly astounded, surprised, and possibly that shows the acceptability of Mahatma Gandhi across nations. She said that I can't have Martin Luther King. I said, why? How is it possible? She said that he was a theologian, so not acceptable to the Muslims. Same answer with Mother Teresa. She said the only person, Nelson Mandela. Then I suggested Nelson Mandela, and she said not acceptable to the German rightists. The only person acceptable to each one of the groups that she was working with was Mahatma Gandhi. And I was quite stunned to listen to her argument. And I think possibly, of course, as I said, there will be contentions and contestations. To say, if I am doing something, there will be a lot of contentions. There will be some people critiquing, some people saying something positive. So there will always be there. We are in a world, we are all human beings, we are all different. Even our views goes on changing from time to time. As we age, if we are young, we will have one set of views. If we When we grow up, we have another set of views. So our not only our views keeps on changing, but people, because we are connecting with people, we our views keep on changing. There are so many different perspectives to everything. But this amazing idea which was shared by this lady from Overhaul in Germany gave me something key. How is it that, how can this man be acceptable to everyone across the board? She said acceptable to the German writers, acceptable to say the Africans. No one is going to have any problem with having the photograph. In fact, she did make the whole thing in German language, and she shared with me afterwards when she started the program. So that is something very, very important. And so I feel, of course, everyone have their own set of views, and we must respect each other's point of views, and with great respect, everyone's views are there. So definitely, I think that is what I felt one can share.
Mansiji, you're back on. Can you unmute and share some of your thoughts?
I can understand the kind of sentiments which are, arousing in all the participants as of now. So let me here ensure you that the course is about non-violence. And more than anything else, it is about the style of communication which we call non-violent communication. And you see, when we are using Gandhi as a name, it is only going to be a reference point. You see, why there is no propaganda in here. We are not promoting any person, but because you see, the field in which I am working in particular, say mediation or counseling or something, there people kind of relate to Gandhi. So we do not promote Gandhi in the sense that we are all promoting all his actions. We are not promoting every ideology that he had throughout his lifetime. We are only about non-violence and non-violent communication. So I would request you for having an interesting discussion on your viewpoint of Gandhi, on what you perceive of him in different situations. Please join the classrooms, and I will highly recommend that you all must be there in the classrooms to understand why we are talking on these lines, and why we are justifying something. It is not about Gandhi. It is only about the principle which he propagated, he promoted throughout his lifetime. So here we will not be justifying or glorifying him as a man or as somebody. We are only about his principles. So sometimes let us try to understand that our professional and personal conduct sometimes are very different. But whenever things are professional, we kind of try to earn only from the profession, only from the thing which is making us better. We need not look at every aspect of man's life. So there are something which should be left to the personal domain of his endeavors, or of his lifetime, or whatever journey he has had. So we are not promoting every single concept or every single thing done by Gandhi. It is only about promotion of non-violence. And this is a fact that non-violence, whether it in be it the Western world or the Arabic or any other place, people relate to it more because of Gandhi. You see, so that is why he is a reference point in the course. So once you enter this journey, enter into this beautiful and interesting journey with us, you will be able to grasp what we are talking about. So I assure here that the course is not about Gandhi alone. We are promoting the principles. We are not promoting a person, right? So for that, you need to enroll yourselves in this course, and then have an interesting journey with us as to why we are promoting this peace of mind, peace in the world. And there can be so many reference points. For example, the United States has had so many wonderful presidents, but their personal lives, for a good number of them, were very controversial. So for that, you do not kind of demean whatever they have done for the society, or maybe even if they've contributed a little bit to the society, we cannot ignore it altogether. So our point is, we are only raising the issue of non-violence and ahimsa. We are not saying that he, and even Gandhi has, he has said that ahimsa, truth and non-violence, are as old as hills. So this man also doesn't take any credit for being somebody who has come up with the concept of non-violence. So for letting us explain the concept, please join the course, and only then we will be able to justify our stance on non-violence and why we are using Gandhi as a reference point, right? So there are situations which demand practicality, and for us, this is a practical solution to ensure that the world is engaged in our dialogue. So that is why the Gandhi is a reference point in a good number of things, but there is no propaganda to promote Gandhianism, Gandhiism, or any other,
Great. Thank you, Mansiji. That was a great little
We
elaboration.
are not deviating from the questions.
Yes.
They will
We
be
are not
answered.
actually deviating from the questions here, for with great respect to each one of you. Let me share yet another case study. Like each one of us, you see, I was writing this book on peace and non-violence. It was a book of conversations with people across the world who are in this field. One of the most powerful, one of the best conversation I had was with this gentleman called Christian Volo Bethelson from Liberia. Unlike many people who are working in peace building, so on and so forth, you see, none of us here in this audience have ever been indulging in violence. But this gentleman, 24 for 25 years of his life, he was in the business of killing people. He was a rebel army commander whose own family members had been mowed down by other rebel commanders. What happened was, after the civil war ended in Liberia in 2005, he was out of his business, and so he was taking his vehicle. He was taking his vehicle to Ivory Coast, which was laden with arms and ammunition, to go to Ivory Coast and join the rebel army over there. So what happened was that his vehicle got struck in the sand dunes over there, and there was a similar vehicle which had got struck. And also, you see, my humble request is, please see how a small little country like Liberia That particular other vehicle was of a small peace building, grassroots peace building organization of Liberia called Everyday Gandhis. That is something which is incredible. There is probably not many figures in history. I'm not, again, as I said, I'm not doing any propaganda, but I'm giving you the facts. There may not be many figures in history on whose name there may be an organization or a name of a street or a statue. So this Everyday Gandhis is still continuing in Liberia. It is a small little organization. They convinced Christian Bolo Bethelson that violence was not the answer. He needed to uh, transform himself. He needed to get, if he wanted to live a life of peace, it can't be the answer, because it was not leading him anywhere. So finally he got convinced, and now he gives lectures on non-violence. So when I was interviewing him, the last quote of his which gave goosebumps to me, you see, personally, when he said that Mahatma Gandhi can be the father of your nation, but for me, Mahatma Gandhi is father of peace in the world. You see, like unlike many of us, there is this man for 25 years of his life. His only job was to kill people because he was a rebel army commander. And this is the words from his own mouth. So let us not, for the sake of being critique, let us not be critical. Let us try to understand the depth and dimensions of different aspects of non-violence. As my friend Mansi rightly pointed out, we are trying to promote non-violent communication. And as I just saw in the chat box, someone saying the whole dimension of non-violent versus toxic communication. You see, globally, if you see non-violent communication in the Western world, it's Dr. Marshall Rosenberg. And Dr. Marshall Rosenberg, in his book, The Nonviolent Communication, the Language of Life, in the first introductory portion, he says he got his idea of nonviolent communication from Mahatma Gandhi's Satyagraha. So we must appreciate, possibly try to appreciate some of these ideas and try to take forward them. So I think that was what we wanted to say. Yes,
Yeah,
Kumu ma'am?
yeah, no, I think Ankur has kind of like already addressed it. That, I was looking, I just looked at the title of the course again, and it just says Ahimsa and the art of non-violent communication. It doesn't say anything about Gandhiji. It doesn't say any particular sect. It doesn't say anything. And the course materials are addressing those issues. It just so happens to be that you and Mansiji have done work on Gandhiji's message, but the course is not focusing on Gandhiji, it's focusing on non-violent communication. So I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, and so obviously Mohandas K. Gandhi has become a controversial figure in some sects for a lot of different reasons. A specific course on him, that sounds like an interesting idea. Maybe we'll pick that up a little bit later. Sorry, Dr. Bomakanti, for not answering directly some of your questions. We can maybe come, if you feel like they haven't been directly answered, and some of them haven't, but you asked a lot of questions and a lot of details that isn't the focus of where we're trying to get to, even though if it started out that way. So let me just launch a quick poll. Just let us know if you're interested in the course or not. We have webinars every weekend, 2 this weekend, 4 last weekend, on whole range of courses, all sorts of faculty. And Dr. Kundu and Mansiji have their perspective and are teaching this course. So if you're interested in this course and want to hear and engage in a class with this, please let us know. And if not, just click no. We're, as Hindu University of America, we're creating a platform for different faculty, different perspectives to cover important topics in a modern context. And Ahimsa and the art of nonviolent communication is clearly an important subject and topic. How this engages with you, isn't it? We have a whole range of other courses. I know Dr. Bomakantiji, you've taken a lot of other courses, and as Shashiji, you are also enrolled in other courses. So that's great, and we want to offer a range of courses and programs and perspectives And if this is the course for you, let us know. Just let us know if you're interested. If you have questions, we'll follow up. Ashwini Surpur was asking more about the games, right? And how do we actually maybe apply, right, some of these theories, these ideas on nonviolent communications, and develop those in practicum. So maybe if we want to get into some of those nonviolent games and those interactions that you're talking about.
Yes, can I answer that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, this stemmed from I was telling you about this discussion who is doing a PhD from one of the universities in Germany on basically artificial, AI language, the language of the algorithm. So there we were discussing on how some of these elements of non-violent communication needs to be exposed to those who are the algorithm engineers or people who make these different AI systems. And one of the major focus was on the gaming system, because as I said, this very interesting group of students, they did a very interesting study on the impact of these violent games, online games on young people. So when we were discussing, what I did was I introduced this group of students to this researcher from Germany to work on these ideas on how to create alternatives, because that is something very important. It is very easy to say that these are impacting young people, these are violent games, it creates problems for young people, they become violent. But what are the alternatives? So we were trying to see on how, when we are promoting these ideas with producers of these games, how impactful it will have. And if we have these games on non-violence and games on compassion, like one interesting thing, like say for instance, I have been giving training in even media literacy. It is also an area of my interest, or rather I have done a lot of work in this area, practical work on media literacy. So what I did was with this group of young school students, we showed them this very violent game of Ninja Turtles. Many of us possibly remember Ninja Turtles. You know, these Ninja Turtles going on a killing spree. So what we did with these students, where they were class 9, 10 students, they were the students of class 8 or 7, and that we told them, well, think of yourself when you are, this Ninja Turtles becoming violent, going on a killing spree. Think of yourself to become a Ninja Gandhi, and think of how you will come out of the situation, whether killing people. So some of the answers that came, you see, these are completely practical work that we have done with young people. These are not as political things, or these are not something theoretical things. These are actual practical work. And some of the answers that came up was simply astounding and very interesting. Similarly, when we were working with this group of students from this university with this researcher, they tried to develop this alternative or games which can be developed to promote compassion amongst young people, to promote kindness amongst young people, how you can be more kinder. And they have developed a whole interesting paper on that, and they plan to work with some of these developers now, with the people who make these games in a more practical way, so that they can develop some of these games. So the work is still continuing, and I'm sure these kind of alternatives needs to be promoted at every level, because the impact many of these violent games has is really too much, and especially young people. So we need to work thoroughly with these people in a most practical way.
Thank you for that. Ashwini ji also made an interesting comment. Ashwini, by the way, Ashwini Surpur ji is also an instructor at HUA, teaching yoga and a range of stuff. And her comparison is pretty interesting. Mohandas Gandhi, Mahatma Gandhi is compared with Martin Luther King by second generation in Indian Americans, and Malcolm X is compared with Veer Savarkar, right? So these are other figures in civil rights and movements, and people respect Malcolm X. And she says more than MLK. And there's, different people who respect Malcolm X more than MLK, and some people would respect MLK more than Malcolm X. And it's same way Indians are beginning to feel that. And part of that is, I appreciate that comparison. That's an interesting point. Thank you for that, Ashwini ji. And so Dr. Bomakanti ji has written a lot of questions, and he feels like you haven't answered his questions directly. So I don't know if you want to pick that up. I have the poll going still if you want to answer that. The details of the course are there. And I think other than Dr. Bomakanti, we've taken everyone's kind of questions and answers. Gopalji also honed in on, would like to learn about the principles of such nonviolent communications as opposed to communication that inflames, right? Enlightening rather than inflaming. Yeah, I kind of expected that this would be a kind of back and forth type of subject, especially for our audience at Hindu University of America. So we appreciate your respectful communication, the back and forth, and if we want to address any specific questions from the audience, I'd encourage that.
In fact,
And
I
then we
would
can
love
wrap
to,
up in the next 5-10 minutes.
possibly we can, I would love
There's
to
just one
answer.
question on Lord Krishna. I would like to answer that. I have not been able to access all the questions. I'm sorry about that because of my network issues. So, see, whenever we talk of mediation, sir, Dr. Raj, we take Lord Krishna's attempt to, kind of ensure that there is no war between the Pandavas and Kauravas. He made every single attempt to ensure that there is no war. So right in the beginning, I suppose I've answered one of these questions privately, that there are layers to non-violence. So when we come to that stage, wherein you need to protect the world, wherein you need to destroy the evil, their non-violence, Shri Krishna, I will not say Lord Krishna, because you see, in common parlance, if it offends you, we kind of refer to him in English language as Lord Krishna. And I would be really happy if some of you can understand Hindi. That will make things more easier for us. So because Bhagwan Krishna ne ye kaha kehna bahut aasan hai. Because as Indians, let me be very honest, that when we switch over to another language, we use all those words which are used in that language instead of using the words which we use in our language. And as an Indian, I am very much into, Lord Bhagwan Krishna, Shri Krishna. And let me tell you that there is this form of love for Lord, which is known as, prema bhakti, wherein aap Bhagwan ko gali, even if you call him by bad names, it doesn't matter. So this is the level of devotion that you can have for Bhagwan Krishna. So when I coming to Krishna ji's attempts to ensure that there is no war, but then you have done every single thing to ensure that the hearts are transformed, the people are transformed, and everything else changes. But towards the end, this is the layer of non-violence which I have been talking about, and I cannot just offer everything in a single session. So that is, you need to understand that when we talk about non-violence, there are stages of where Gandhi, even if you have this controversy, even Gandhi at one stage said, do or die, you know so isn't even self mutilation or self harm is violence. So that is why I'm saying that there are layers to non-violence. There are stages of non-violent communication which we will be letting you know. See, in my classes for the college students, people feel amused when I say that over complimenting or even sometimes complimenting an individual can be violent to his or her mental health. Why? Because if you're pressurizing somebody into behaving in a particular way, say if you're calling a girl beautiful every single time you meet her, she will be pressurized into believing that I need to look beautiful to be acceptable, every single time. So when I say that non-violence has dimensions, please trust us with that. We will be able, I'm sure with the exposure now we have had, we will be able to answer all these questions which you are raising. And in my case in particular, because of the network issue, I just saw this question and I wanted to answer that. Bhagwan Krishna could not
You see, he could not have let evil pervade in this world. So though he tried every possible thing to ensure that there is no war, but then this is how non-violence, the how deep this concept of non-violence is. You will understand that if in certain situations there is a call of duty, and if you're evading that duty to protect some people, as a policeman, if you're evading that duty, you are violent there, you're not non-violent. No, non-violence has dimensions. I'm not saying it has limitations. You are not understanding the circumstance in which non-violence is placed. As a policeman, if you're bound to protect a lady, say, being attacked by somebody, and if you have to use force over there, let me tell you, if you negate that duty, then you will be violent. By following that duty, you're being non-violent because you're saving the world. So this is how deep non-violence is, and you need to to understand that. I cannot just tell you about the entire course right here in this one session. So what are the sessions planned for? If I have to answer each and everything here, I can only give you the gist of all those things which are going to happen in the classes, and it is going to be a very interesting affair, trust me. And one more thing, let me assure that, you see the patience level Dr. Kundu has, because he's been practicing non-violent communication. So this is what you're going to develop once you are into the practice of this art of non-violent communication. This is what we have to offer. Because these days, having opinions, getting charged is very easy. But then to contain oneself and to think of what is happening, we are not saying that we will be right every time, but that acceptance that yes, we can be wrong also is non-violence. When we go to the courtrooms, what happens there is that one party will eventually win because of the facts or because of the law, and the other party will of course be defeated. But why do these cases continue? Because there is no acceptance of defeat. Acceptance of defeat is also non-violence. You always do not have to justify yourself, and we are very, we that way we are always willing to learn, from you, from all those participants which will be there in the classrooms, to even we have an open mind to accept what you're saying, to understand, to assimilate why you have that point of view, what you want us to answer, and what are the other areas we should look into to satisfy the the questions, the queries that you have. So
Also,
so I
uh,
think
um,
that enrollment is the challenge for the university. We are only the preachers here. So
you see,
thank you so
very
much.
important question from Dr. Raj. With great humility, I would like to say, like he's also telling that please, instead of anecdotes and case studies, you have to convince me that I will benefit from your course. Well, you see, when we am talking of non-violent communication, whether I am trying to talk about the the Gandhian approach or any approach, the very word non-violent communication, it help it is basically talking about my how, as Mansi said, how I'm patient, how I'm respectful for the other person's point of view. I have deep respect for your point of view. Of course, I'm not expecting that you might have have the same respect as I am having for you. That is something we gain from it. And some of the very interesting examples that not just I gave, but from the practical life of when we are actually using these tools of non-violent communication, like compassion, like gratitude, the importance of gratitude. You see, I'm working with a psychologist, and we are trying to develop these measures of non-violent communication. And in fact, also we are working with this very interesting gentleman from Canada, who is heading the World Civility Index, on how non-violent communication can be a very important dimension for our well-being, and linking it to corporate governance. So when we are talking of well-being and happiness, authentic happiness in today's world, how non-violent communication helps in that. Because if you're violent, if you see, if we are, charged up, if we are violent with someone, then we will not, it will become a dysfunctional communication ecosystem. On the other hand, if we are respectful for each other, if we are able to understand each other's point of view, and we are patient, we will be able to handle not just conflicts or opposite point of views in a better way, but you will find that it will not stress us. That's very important. And also, if you see from the positive psychology point of view, some of these altruistic tendencies that the elements of nonviolent communication has, like compassion, empathy, kindness, gratitude, they are linked to the neurosciences of the brain. And a lot of psychological studies says that the more we practice them, it contributes to our well-being. So instead of purely looking at something from a completely political point of view, we must see it from the point of view of how it contributes to our well-being, how it contributes to help us, shaping our communication ecosystem in our daily life. That is something we must look at, and that is the positives. Like why does say someone in Nigeria or Yemen, or like yesterday, today, in fact, I and Mansi, as I said, have been working on the Gandhian model of humanistic mediation, and I happened to share that model in the Facebook. And today I find this very senior person from Argentina actually translating it and sharing with her audiences. So if uh, I'm sure there must be some element of, or she must have liked it. Otherwise, why she would take the pain of translating it? It's such a big article and sharing with all the people in Spanish language. So we must see the things from multiple perspectives. And when we start seeing things from multiple perspectives, we grow as human beings. That's my personal viewpoint. So that is what we wanted to say. Yes, Kumu ma'am, if you would like to add something more.
Yeah. What I was going to say is that, I have been trying to, promoting this class on of nonviolent communication that you developed, not this one, but a different one, through the Secretariat. And in that process, you shared with me the feedback that you have gotten from American, not Indian American, but American American, the Caucasian American students and students from Zambia and from all over the world, where they have said, yes, we are starting to see a difference in the way we feel, the way we communicate, and it's making us a better person. So, so some people do find it beneficial. You won't get, you're not forced to anything. It's just up to you. You want to try it and see if it helps you. That's one avenue to. Today, we try everything, whatever can make our life better, we want to try it. So, if you want to look at it from that perspective, and it doesn't, in the course that I'm offering, it's free, so it doesn't hurt people. If they like it, take it. They don't want to, they don't have to. So that's what I want to add.
Any other questions, please? Most welcome.
Yeah, there's still from Shashiji just about AI, Rajiv Malhotra's book. Maybe that's something that could be included and discussed. And Sriniji on game developers. Any thoughts on marketing to game developers? We're at 10:26, kind of at the end of our time. I appreciated the conversation, the back and forth, and the engagement. I think this was something that has been surfacing in the Indian and the Hindu community, and it will continue to surface and needs to be discussed from multiple perspectives. The truth needs to come out, propaganda perspectives, but then also refocusing on, as Dr. Kundu was saying, how does it actually benefit? What are the benefits to us individually, to society? And we know the communication that is going on is continuing to polarize and prevent productive conversations, right? Because of the way that the toxicity and the way that people push their agendas through the communications. It's it's such an important conversation. It's so relevant in today's context, not just academia, but political, societal, individual lives. So I appreciate the conversation. Thank you all for engaging. I apologize if you got too back and forth, but that was the point, right? The nonviolent communications, how do we communicate out of that and keep it positive and productive? So with that, let me hand it to our faculty for some closing thoughts.
I would love to add one final point, and that's very interesting when we are talking of non-violence and the world that we live in. We all know what kind of situation the people in Sudan are going through, like that civil war and people, such a huge number of refugees. This young person, in fact, 1.5 years back, he was a student union leader in one of the colleges of Darfur. It is one of the worst affected, if you see, and such thousands of people from that place have been forced to become refugees in neighboring Chad. So this person, Mohammad Mirgani, one day said, "Sir, I really don't know how much you value Gandhi's non-violence." I said, "Why do you say so?" He said that you in India are living in a very peaceful society. You don't see anything like what kind of conflict that we live in. And tomorrow, when I go to the college, I really don't know whether I will come back alive or not. So, in such a situation, like he said, I desperately want that Gandhi's non-violence should be an integral part of my society, because we are now fed up with these killings, we are fed up with conflicts. In fact, 1.5 years down the line, with this whole conflict that is going on in Sudan, his house has been burned and he is now forced to flee to Chad. And the other day he contacted me and he said, "Sir, if you remember, I said, by any means we want a peaceful, non-violent society, because we can't take it anymore. All our lives are finished. We don't know what to do. And in the refugee camp here, there are no proper drinking water facilities, no sanitation, nothing." So that's why I have been telling that we just need non-violence by any means. We can't live in a society where there is so much of conflict. I think that is something very important lessons that we want to learn. Non-violence, whether Gandhi or anyone, is a supreme thing. Violence cannot give us anything. We will never be able to live in peace if there is violence around. And I think this answer of Muhammad Mirgani possibly will, flag off something for us to think why we need to learn to live in a non-violence, why we need to promote non-violence.
And there's one more thing I would like to add here, sir. There is this Shiv Tandav Stotram written by, Ravan. So Ravan, the one we talk about in Ramayana. This man was bestowed with blessings by Bhagwan Shiva. Why? Shivji, he blessed this man for his good deeds he had done. Though when we talk about the character, it will be very controversial. So here I insist again that when even the Almighty does not discriminate when it comes to good things, then we as human beings should also not look at it at from this point of view. So if there is something good that we can promote through an individual, let us promote that. We are here only promoting the concept, which is, and let me here insist that Shiv Tandav Sotram is something which is recited by the Hindus in their household. So if we are to look at the person, his character, what the deeds he had done, we should have completely negated outrightly the character of Ravan in Ramayana. But we are Hindus. As Hindus, I'm a Hindu Brahmin. So as Hindus, the Sanatan Dharma insists that always look at the good you can learn from people. So here I insist again that the course is only about the good things you can learn from somebody, the good things you can learn from any particular perspective, whether it be Hinduism or any other religion for that matter. So I would again insist that these discussions will be very interesting. So for this, you need to please enroll into this course.
Thank you once again. Thank you for your patient listening and time. And we will make sure that we do
Thank you very
justice to
much.
your sentiments. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dhanyawad, everyone. If you haven't yet, please do enroll in at least a course at HUA. And if this is the one, please do consider. Quarter is starting. Dhanyawad, Dr. Kundu, Mansiji, thank you so much. And Kumuji, our guest host, thank you for being on with us today.
My pleasure.
Thank you very much, everyone. It was such a great honor interacting with all of you.